Hello, I am David Kenny, aka Mr. Awesome X300. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the third and final part of Limgrave, which is the starting area of Elden Ring. We last left off talking about Stormhill. Yes, that's right, we did. So, near at Stormhill, we have Stormhill Shack. An important NPC is found here. After you talk to her, she'll go to the Round Table Hold. The Round Table Hold, by the by, is the central hub of Elden Ring, basically, where countless Lost Tarnished come. And that important NPC, by the way, will be your Spirit Tuner, aka upgrading your Spirit Ashes. Speaking of which, she'll give you one. The Spirit Jellyfish. It'll only be temporarily available because, according to lore, the name it has a name. It's a she, by the way. This jellyfish goes by the name of Aurelia. Aurelia and Aureliette wanted to see the stars together. So, Aureliette was looking for her sister, and she is in a late game area, which also happens to be ruins. To unlock the ruins, by the way, you have to reunite the two together. They just wanted to see the stars. Anyway, before that happens, she can spit poison at enemies, and it would seem like she's a good one. A good Ash. Now, Evergalls. They are basically prisons all around the lands between. Except the last one, which is a consecrated snowfield, Ordinia, aka liturgical town. Even though that it doesn't have a prisoner or a boss, it has something else that can be considered a boss. So, this one houses a rogue knight that a certain NPC fairy will request your aid in taking out. That NPC was Blind, like I mentioned. I don't really know the relationship, other than the fact that Blind wants him dead and declares him a traitor. That knight in question is Darrowell. This is a Bloodhound Knight, basically. Bloodhound Knights can, perform airborne attacks with this sword, which you get when you beat this one. It's called the Bloodhound's Fang. Heard it's a pretty good one because heard it's one of the OP ones. That's why. Anyway, there's another Evergall in Limgrave. This one houses a knight. It could be a pain for new Tarnished. Although, since I managed to defeat all 10 of these Evergall's prisoners in one shot, and that happens to be when after I completed the main part, although I didn't beat the final boss yet, though. That's a problem, though. Anyway, my point is, I was at a late level, and most of these were pretty easy. There were two that actually were a pain, and three I actually died to, although they were mainly later on. I'll talk about them when we get there in their respective areas. Anyway, the one shown here is a Crucible Knight. The Elden Lord's main defense, aka the Praetorian Guard of the Erd Tree. Now, Crucible Knights at half health can produce incantations of the Golden Crucible, which I believe is what they are made from, aka, how do I want to say, inspired by. Now, there are also some Crucible talismans, but we'll get to them when we deal with the appropriate mini-dungeons they have. Anyway, the point is, one incantation that you get after you defeat this knight is aspects of the Crucible, the tail. It can create a tail that can twice slap your foes. The latter slap is larger. And also, just so you know, there are three types of Crucible Knights. The one shown here in this Evergall is an Axe Knight. Has a helmet shaped like an axe and wields a sword and a shield. There's also one that is a tree. A tree helmet and a weaponized tree. And there are two notable Crucible Knights, but they're both bosses, and I'll get to them when I get to their respective locations. There's also a unique Hammer Knight at the DLC, but we'll get to that when we get there on that video. Back on Eastern Limgrave, we have these waypoint ruins. Down these ruins lies a magic NPCs that can help you start your sorcerer journeys. Her name is Selen, and I'll tell you more about her when we get to her quest. I'll, I'll spoiler alert, it's not gonna end well for her. Don't worry, she won't die. She'll just be transformed. And she'll give you some sorceries to start your journey, like I mentioned, like Carrion Phalanx or Glintblade Phalanx, which, by the way, summons some swords coming up your air for defense and then rains down on your enemies. We also have a better sorcery, Carrion Slicer. Basically, like a bigger magic sword that does magic damage. Magic damage, by the way, is another one of those attributes. Anyway. Before you get to her, however, you have to face a Mad Pumpkinhead. These are former gladiators, and they have to wear a mask to hide their lust and rage within. They're supposedly broken gladiators, just so you know. But they wield two weapons. The one shown here has a hammer that you can't even get. There's another variant that has a flail, which you can get. That is the chain link flail, just so you know. Basically like a regular flail, but longer. Now, at Stormhill, we come across the War Master's Shack. A merchant by the name of Bernal can sell you ashes of war, like parry, which is basically you're blocking or deflecting an enemy attack, a physical one, so to speak. However, there is one problem. And do you know what that is? That would be this bell-bearing hunter. He roams the night to kill merchants and steal their bearings. Bell bearings, to be precise. And you don't want to meet him. He's kind of hard. He appears in three other areas. And one of them is really the worst. And that happens to be in Dragon Barrow. Just so you know. Anyway. Oh, yeah. Some bosses only appear at night, like Knight's Cavalry, aka Funeral Steeds, who serve the fellow men, and I'll be talking about him when we get to Stormvile's video. There's also Deathbirds and Deathrite Birds, just as well, except the one at the Mountaintops of the Giants, which is a late game area, just so you know. I'll tell you more about them when we talk about other bosses. When we talk about the bosses themselves, videos of the bosses. Anyway, aside from that, speaking of Dragon Barrow, if you want to go there for early rune acquisition, I'll tell you more about how to do that when we get to Dragon Barrow / Caelid. Just so you know, it's not a pleasant place to be at all. Although, in my experience, it wasn't that bad. Now, this place is Summerwater Village, the last stop, if you want to go there. The place smells of death. But in this patch of death lies turtles. Turtles, for some odd reason, are referred to as dogs here. Why? Who knows? I don't know why turtles are dogs. They just move slow. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, these are also ruins. In these ruins contains a chest called the Green Turtle Talisman. It increases your stamina, aka endurance, when you run around, just so you know. But to get there, you have to defeat this Tibia Mariner, skeleton, boat. Summon other skeletons to pester you, and he can also teleport out, just so you know. Skeletal Militiaman Ashes are what you get when you beat him. Now, skeletons in this game can't die until hit twice. To be honest, I think that's an improvement because for previous Soulsborne games, you have to beat a Necromancer. Although there are also giant skeletons in the Tomb of the Giants, but they don't get resurrected. All you gotta do is beat them once, and then they're toast. Now, the last area, the Third Church America. Now, you have a finger maiden named Melina. She will tell you about everything. Basically, how about Tarnished becoming Elden Lord and speaking through words America, Marika, Queen Marika to be precise. Anyway, this is the third church. There are three other churches. At Weeping Peninsula, which I'll be talking about next week. Then there's one in Altus Plateau, and then the mountaintops of the Giants. This is the third of them, where you get the Flask of Wondrous Physic, where you can customize your concoctions for buffs and defense as well, and also resistance and strength. Now, what do you need when you create this Wondrous Physic? Why, the crystal tears that I mentioned last part at Minor Erdtrees. Now, then. That'll be all for Limgrave. I know I did mention something about Weeping Peninsula next week, and that's basically like a tougher version of Limgrave. That's southern. That's the southernmost point of the lands between. I'll be talking more about that next week. Until then, I hope you like these three parts. Please like and subscribe, and also click the notification bell to when I upload my videos. Until then, see ya! Bye! Bye, bye, bye.